If you've got an ADHD brain and you run a business, dopamine is either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. Most people really only talk about one side or the other. Today, we're going to talk about both. So on the off chance you have not heard about this thing called dopamine dysregulation, here's the high-level overview. Dopamine in the ADHD brain is a whole thing, and it is actually really fascinating if you decide you do want to deep dive. We've gone very deep into this on the ADHD iOS channel. We've also gone into this on the Grow Disrupt channel, my company where we produce events and adventure kits for ADHD entrepreneurs to help them grow. And as fascinating as the neuroscience is, the more fascinating part is what it's actually doing to your business right now. So we're going to spend the most of this video talking about that. Baseline info. ADHD brains run low on dopamine. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that manages focus and follow through and decision making, it doesn't get enough dopamine to make routine feel rewarding. So our brains are constantly scanning for new ways and new places to get it. And the fastest place to get it, the best place to get it, is something novel, new ideas, new projects, new directions. So the first place that this shows up in your business that will derail everything you are working on is with your team. And let's be fair, ADHD entrepreneurs are incredibly exciting to work for. We tend to be really fun to work for. We come in fired up. We have all these new ideas. We get everyone moving. The energy is contagious. But when we do this consistently without follow through, we're not leading, we're training our team not to trust us when we get excited. Way back when I was doing one-on-one coaching, I had a client who did this quite frequently to her team. And in this particular instance, I was actually working both with the entrepreneur as well as with her senior leadership. And one of those senior leadership individuals confided to me at one point that, Stephanie, whenever a business owner comes in with a new idea, we just give it till the end of the day. She's forgotten. If she actually wants us to work on it, she'll bring it back up a few months later and ask where we're at on it. But most of the time she comes in with all these things, she never remembers them. In other words, they learned that if they just waited around long enough, the business owner would move on to the next thing before they put a whole ton of effort into the first thing. So what was the point of putting effort into the first thing? And look, this wasn't about them being lazy or refusing to take ownership. This was about pattern recognition. This was realizing that they were going to get started on one project, but they couldn't actually enjoy working on that project because they wouldn't ever get to finish it. They would constantly be pulled into another project and another project and another. So if you are wondering why your team is not finishing the work that you're giving them to do, might be worth checking yourself. I'm not saying that's always the case, but it might be worth checking yourself here. Because sometimes it's not actually a team issue, kind of is an us issue, but really it's a dopamine issue. Our brains are seeking dopamine, and when we let ourselves get pulled into that, what we are doing is training our team that it doesn't really, momentum doesn't matter, that completion isn't the goal. You just have to try, just be excited with me, and then I'll forget about it and you can move on. And the fix here isn't willpower, it's structure. It's important that as an ADHD entrepreneur, I have plenty of places to throw new ideas, and I have time allocated for me to start playing around with new ideas and deciding which ones I actually want to take to my team. This way I can take my team fewer initiatives and fewer explicit commitments and give them finish lines, something that they can actually aim for, something that they can really actually feel like they're grabbing hold of something and running with it. So they can trust that whatever energy they put into something, they're going to get to see it to the other side, which is part of what makes my team so perfect for me. They get their sense of accomplishment from finishing projects. I get my sense of accomplishment from coming up with them. It's a match made in heaven. One of the things I instituted earlier this year was my Forge journal. This is literally just a journal of ideas and things that I may want to examine at some point. I don't have to run with any of these right now. In fact, I don't even worry about getting them organized on the page. I literally just throw them on whatever page I flip to. And then when I'm needing a little bit of dopamine, I can often go in and just kind of flip through and find something new or fascinating. And if I have time to work on something new, let's say I happen to have time dedicated to work on that and I don't have any other project on my plate, then I have a place to go for that. So the next place that dopamine will quietly wreck your business is in your marketing. And like I said, this hits pretty close to home for me because I've seen it come up enough that I put it in the new book. So here's the trap. Trying new stuff in your marketing gives you a hit of dopamine. It feels like movement. It feels like progress. You're finding something new. You're trying something new. Your brain registers this as this is good. And the bigger problem here is that it is actually literally addictive. You get so excited about trying something new constantly that you never actually give anything the room, the space to compound and work together to make something actually get traction. But what's actually happening here is we are chasing the rush of possibility. Our brains are eternal optimists. And so we have this idea that this is the next thing that's going to work. We chase unicorn stories like this worked for this person, so I should clearly do the same thing because if it worked for that person, it's going to work for me, ignoring the fact that we are no longer actually paying attention to any of the other parameters that made it successful for this person. Marketing works by compounding. There are these things in marketing called activators and amplifiers. Activator tactics are tactics that take someone at the point of conversion and get them to activate, to actually turn into a client. Amplifiers take everything you do, the activators, but also all of the general branding stuff you do, and they make it more effective. They amplify them. And when you have enough activators and amplifiers working together, you create a compound effect in marketing. Your activators become more effective, your amplifiers become more effective. And so you start to see higher and higher returns. This is why a lot of times you'll see one marketing tactic that won't get any return. But when you have 4, 5, 6, 7, you're getting exponential returns on that. That is compounding in action. And the problem is that when we are getting all excited with trying something new and we've got the rush of dopamine happening, we are not giving anything the chance to actually get traction or start to work together. We are fracturing our message. We are diluting positioning. We are eradicating the opportunity for compounding to take effect. And the biggest problem here is that a lot of times this behavior in marketing feels like it is problem solving. We're trying something new. We're trying to find the new thing. I've had so many people tell me, Stephanie, you just have to throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. And like, in some sense, I can see that, but like, you need to make sure that you've got some structure behind making sure the thing you're trying has a good chance of working. Otherwise, like, you will wear yourself out and destroy your resources trying stuff that never had the chance to work for your business or your brand. And here's where it gets fun, or at least it gets useful, because our goal is not to eliminate or like smooth out the dopamine drive. Our goal is to redirect it, to use it. So if you've been following the transition for Grow Disrupt over the past year or so, you might have seen that we have been transitioning from being a purely events company to being an events company and a product company. And there's a lot of reasons behind this. One of the biggest ones is we've had so many people saying, oh, everyone should experience a Grow Disrupt event. And that's great, but I don't want to run events for everyone. I'm very introverted at heart. Like, I want to run an event for 50 people. That's my happy place. But I do want people to be able to have that experience with what we do, because I have seen that impact for 10 years now and how much of a difference it makes. So we started creating these products, the flagship being the Sprint Kit. And one of the big challenges with these Sprint Kits is that it was a long-term goal. This is something where I was going to do a bunch of work up front, but I wasn't going to see the outcome for quite some time, right? Like, I wasn't going to have that boost of dopamine, that excitement on the back end. Like, I started building these Sprint Kits over a year ago, and like a year later, they're just coming to market. Once I got the original idea for the Sprint Kits, like, I wanted to be involved in actually planning out and doing it, but this required me doing a whole bunch of things I'd never done before. I had to do sourcing. I had to like write workbooks, which I'd done some workbook creation, but like not like this. And what ended up happening was my brain was constantly finding other things to work on. I would have time blocked out to work on product development, and I would suddenly find this miraculously urgent thing I needed to go do anything else. Ultimately, I realized that because it was a lot of uncertainty, it was a lot of new territory, it was a lot of learning new things, I wasn't necessarily getting dopamine from it, because I got my dopamine from the rush of the idea. But I know that one of the reasons the events has been so successful is because I have been involved and because of what I have learned over the years about working with the ADHD brain. So like, being involved in the actual creation, I wanted to be involved in the planning, the putting things together, the design, all of that stuff. Like, my team can take care of that. But I wanted to be involved in like the original creation. Instead, when I started to realize that this was partially a dopamine issue, I said, you know what, I'm going to actually use this. So I went and I got snacks that I was only allowed to have when I was working on the products. Like, I will do crazy things for a Nutty Buddy. And so that was what I decided, was I was going to tie Nutty Buddies to working on the product. I built a playlist full of songs that I've gotten to hear live in concert, or I've gotten to hear live, or I have some sort of emotional connection with, so that I had some sort of dopamine flowing from listening to the music. I got special drinks. I started doing what I call the pink pen. So I found a really, really pretty shade of pink pen. And every time I was supposed to work on the product for the day, in my to-do list, I would write down that in the pink pen so that like it stood out from the list. And I was so excited to get to go work on that. Ultimately, what happened was I built enough novelty around working on the products that it helped overcome this like fear moment of looking at the product itself as like, I need to work on this thing and this could be this big thing. Now it was like, well, I need to work on the thing, and I want a nutty bar, and I want to listen to my music, and I want my drinks, and I have it's in pink. It's in pink. I have to do the pink. The science behind this is real. Dopamine gets released in the brain when you encounter something new or when you're anticipating a reward. And you can engineer both of these. The pink pen was just something that like it was different on the page. And by tying that to the Nutty Buddies, to the music, to the drinks, like it gave me a like Pavlov trained response that the pink pen is exciting. So if you've got long-term projects that your brain keeps deprioritizing, find ways to make it genuinely exciting for you, whether that is getting yourself a snack that you're going to eat, or whether that is music, or whether that is a pink pen that you want to train yourself as exciting. Like, make your brain understand that this exciting thing is tied to doing this thing that maybe you don't have dopamine around because it's just too far out. Look, when you can make work itself the novel thing, your brain will show up for it. Dopamine is not the problem. Unmanaged dopamine is the problem. The difference between the ADHD entrepreneurs who scale and the ones that spin out is it's right here. It's not always strategy. It's not always talent. A lot of times it's whether or not they've learned to work with their neurobiology to understand that I can bring exciting new ideas. I can have a place that I store them if I'm not ready to get them going. I can allocate time each week just to work on these new ideas without having to throw everything on my team and train them not to actually run with anything. I can put together new and exciting ways to do my marketing in my business. I don't have to get myself distracted constantly. I can get my team maybe running the execution consistently on the marketing so that I can focus on the new and the exciting things. There are ways to give yourself space to say, all right, I need to work on the long-term thing. Let's train my brain to make that fun. I need to keep this done consistently in marketing. I'm going to have the idea and let my team execute. And I'm going to keep track of how many ideas that I'm throwing out there so that my team is not getting inundated. Get a project management system, even if it is nothing more than a freaking Excel spreadsheet. Get an Excel spreadsheet with different tabs for each of the major projects you have running that your team has to keep updated, that you throw on new ideas into. Start somewhere so that you can understand how your dopamine may be disrailing you and your team, but also can be your greatest asset to build things that nobody else would ever come up with. If you want to dig a little bit deeper into the marketing side of things, we've got a lot of that in the Stop Guessing at Your Marketing book, which is now available wherever you decide you would like to go buy your books. So please feel free to go grab a copy of the book so you can understand how your dopamine dysregulation may be messing with your marketing, because there are things you can do to make dopamine one of your greatest assets. It can help you move things forward no one else would think of. It can help you come up with new ideas and get your team excited, as long as you're making sure that you are controlling the places that it could spin out because of it.